Welcome to Experimarketing, the podcast where we innovate, create, and appreciate. Powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Here's the host of Experimarketing, Chief Experimarketer, Colin.
Ladies and gentlemen, advertisers of all ages, we are back on another episode of Experimarketing in its quest to be the number one podcast in the automotive space, your go-to source for anything innovative, creative, and of course, we always need to appreciate, so let's say appreciative of all the ways to generate new opportunities for business in the automotive space. Let's bring on my co-host, Matt Wilson.
Hello, Colin.
Hello, Matt. How are you today?
Good. Let me, there we go.
Yeah, let me get you up here. There you go.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
A big Matt Wilson is always better than a little screen Matt Wilson. Yeah. So, that's good. I'm glad you can join me.
Why does my head look so large next to your head, though? I look like I have a watermelon on my shoulder.
How close are you to your camera? Maybe there you go. You got to recline a little bit. So anyway, I'm here with Matt. Today, we are talking about something that I think is very important, and we want to make sure that everyone's listening. So episode 14 today on Experimarketing is called Are You Listening? And Matt, we're going to be talking about social listening. What do you think when I say social listening? I always ask you these questions. So I like your input. Social listening, what does it mean to you?
Is it like when you're at a party and you're trying to pay attention to somebody that you're talking to, but you're just zoned out? That's not what, is it that?
I don't think it's that. I think what we can use, though, is maybe that party example, and we can take that and we could think about the fact that, all right, you're at this party, you're listening to some people talk, you're taking cues from what's being said and what's not being said. Perhaps you're watching the body language of the other individual that you're talking to at this party, but applying it to the the automotive space and advertising, it's a little different, but maybe we can tie it all together. I like to come full circle, you know that, but this one's going to be a tough one to come full circle to, but I think we can do it. I think we can do it with this social listening party example that you gave to us. So without further ado, though, because everyone, it's not just us, right? It's the whole marketing community. It's all the Experimarketers out there. We have Troy Scheer. Troy Scheer is the managing director of Binary Marketing Solutions. And before we introduce fully Troy, you are on screen now, but I love to see culture of value back there. We'll do a little plug. Why not? We always are about supporting other people in the space when they have great things to say. Troy and his team just launched the Culture of Value podcast. He's got an awesome backdrop for those of you that are watching. But Troy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, managing director at Binary Marketing Solutions. Let us have it.
Absolutely. So actually, I've got 24 years now in the marketing field. And prior to coming on with Binary Marketing Solutions is actually part of Binary Automotive Solutions. We provide the marketing services for Binary Auto, but then also with the our dealer clients that we work with. But prior to that, I was not very much into the auto. We had a few auto clients back in the day, but so I come to things with a little bit different perspective and try to bring what I've seen over the past 20 years in other retail and even B2B marketing and helping the auto side kind of understand some things that we can do a little bit differently than has been done in the past. And I think that's where, social listening, as you all were talking about. And, like Matt said, it is kind of like at a party, we're eavesdropping on people in a way and, trying to understand what's going on and what we can do to better reach customers. That's what it's really about.
And that is truly the case. That's what it's all about. How can dealers make their operations better, right? So more efficient, truly get in front of their customer base, but making it like that they are really listening to the customer. And that is the most important thing. So Troy, as the expert, and obviously you guys have really delved into social listening. And I think that that's the next frontier, if you will. I mean, yes, it's been going on, but I think dealers need to really put a stronger emphasis on it. What is social listening for all those who are listening out there?
Well, the one thing I would say that it's not, and I think a lot of people think it's just monitoring your Facebook page or your Twitter feed or those kind of things. It really is going out and we have the ability within the social listening, some of the software and things that we have to gather data and information and see where people are talking all over the internet, understand forums, websites and things of that nature. But, obviously still your Googles and Facebooks and Twitters are important, but it's really understanding what people are saying when, behind your back, so to speak, because we all know people tell the truth when, behind your back. So it's really that element of listening, but then there's also the intelligence gathering side. I think that's the big key that a lot of people miss when you start talking about social listening is it's gathering data and then being able to make it useful, have actionable intelligence from that data, and not just, okay, well, so-and-so said this or so-and-so said that, and now we're going to, a lot of people, it's just a quick response on a Facebook post or something like that. And that's not what we're wanting at all. We want to be able to take a lot of information and a lot of data about customers for automotive dealerships in their tight geographic area, and then be able to take that information and develop a better relationship with them, both online and offline.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, one of the things, you had touched on it, right? So it's almost broken down into this 2-step process, which is something, that you and I had discussed, Matt, obviously, with the introduction call. But like you said, just to reiterate for everyone out there, it's not just monitoring your social channels. Yes, that is part of it, right? So seeing what the sentiment is out there, seeing how people are engaging on your social channels, as well as your other, organic and paid advertising outlets, such as search, SEO, Google My Business, so on and so forth. But then also analyzing that data and then getting some actionable insight. So I just want to reiterate that because it is the 2-step process, if you will. But the other portion behind that, which I think is a very interesting way to look at it, and please, give us your input on this as well, Troy. Sure. It's the data versus the actual mood, if you will, behind the data. What are your thoughts when you say that?
It is absolutely all of it. And that's part of the data that you're looking at is what is the sentiment that you might have from a certain group. And that's what's nice is we can start, narrowing down and targeting a market and understanding maybe where, millennials or younger folks are, how they feel about something versus, 45 plus. Right. How do they view your brand as, from a dealership perspective? And that's the thing that dealerships have to understand is they are their own brand. It's not, if you're a Ford dealership or a Mazda or whatever, that you're not a Ford brand. That's Ford. You're wanting to establish your own brand because Ford is happy to have all of their Ford dealerships selling. So they're not necessarily invested in you as a brand. And that's where the social listening comes in, where you can really be able to get into a tight geographic area and understand where your customers are coming from, and then be able to understand how they feel about you. There's so many things that you can understand by checking that sentiment, because we go through, you have the word clouds and things like that you can start seeing based around a certain dealership. And various, is it the sales side? Is it the service side? What's going well and what's not, and being able to really then take some actionable steps to improve. If you've got negative sentiment, well, what do we do to improve that?
Right.
Because again, if you're drawing people in, if you're drawing customers in and providing a bad experience, they're not coming back, and they're going to tell 20 other people.
Right. So I think one of the biggest things too, just to touch on it, I'm taking notes over here, and I always love doing this because you do find some really great tidbits of information. But obviously, in a world where we're moving towards customer experience kind of being a differentiator, it is the differentiator. And we had just done a previous episode of Experimarketing where we talked about customer experience being the next competitive battleground, right? When things are apples to apples in terms of a Jeep Grand Cherokee is a Jeep Grand Cherokee working at my dealership. It's the same at another dealership. So what are you doing to get that person to come to your store? Obviously, you're looking at customer experience, or for example, maybe a why buy here messaging. But I just want to touch on the fact that social listening, and you had mentioned this, that social listening can actually aid your dealership or be beneficial to your dealership in fact, helping you create that why buy here messaging, or seeing ways to provide a great customer experience, so on and so forth. So with that stated, I mean, is that one of the key reasons? What other reasons should dealers implement social listening for?
Well, I think absolutely that's a key, because like you said, it's experience. Whether you're, if you have a bad experience anywhere, it doesn't matter, especially when, I mean, let's face it, like you said, the vehicle actually is a commodity. Mm-hmm. It's not like like you said, the Jeep at one place is different from a Jeep from another. Right. It's really about when I go in and engage with that, and I'll call it brand, with that dealership brand. How do I feel about it? Are they making the transaction easy? Is the sales staff friendly, or do they have knowledge of what's going on? Can they answer my questions? Are they making me wait for ever? Because again, what you look at is the value of people's time. So when you're creating a value proposition, well, we value your time. So that's a huge thing. And with the data that we can see, we can actually track down into specific salespeople at a dealership and understand what people are thinking about them. One of our dealerships out in California that we are working with, one of the ladies that's she's talked about everywhere that we can find, on forums, on their Facebook pages and various other channels. And everybody that talks about her says how great what a great salesperson she is. So we've told them, well, let's, the dealership, let's talk to her and understand, and let's really follow her around, utilize this lady as the trainer for the other salespeople. Because, when you start looking at the data, and she's mentioned, 40% of the time over all the rest of their salespeople, there's something going on there. So right. just in that, it's like she's providing that positive experience that customers want and that they're raving about. Well, if you've got 15, 20 salespeople, you want to make sure all 15 or 20 of them are doing the same thing that she does, because not only are they helping the dealership, they're helping themselves, which then, you start thinking about retention and hiring new people. Well, if as a new salesperson coming on perspective, and I know that this is the way the dealership works, that they're finding out what works best and can help me do a better job, sell more cars and make more money. I mean, that's what I, as a salesperson, want to do.
Right.
So if I can, that as a dealership, I want to gather that data and understand how I can take my entire sales team and make them that star that our top salesperson is.
I think one of the most fascinating things that, we had touched on in our introduction call was that really you can look at this, holistically, when you look at the dealership, right? And let's say you look at all the departments or all of the money or revenue generating parts of a dealership. So sales, service, parts, there's a lot of different things that go into making sure that the dealership is operating smoothly. But when you just talk about the example that you had given about this stellar salesperson and the sentiment behind that salesperson, this could show dealers too that social listening is not just about, and I guess I'll call it external factors, right? It's not just about what the customer's saying. Obviously, that's very important, but you could take what the customer's saying and you implement it internally. And then that improves your internal factors, which in turn it improves the external sentiment.
Completely, because you got to think about it. If your salespeople are happy, if everybody in any job, that's one of my key things at my team. I want to make sure everybody's happy, because when they're happy, they work harder, they work better, they'll do their job, and they're excited to come. Well, if you're excited to be at your job, and you're a salesperson, that's going to show. When somebody comes in, it's you can't fake being truly engaged with somebody, and that can be whether, like you said, sales or service. I mean, and that's one of the things that, it's part, again, in that brand development, you have a brand promise. Well, if you're telling your customers that our service department is the best, and, we get you in and out on time and all of these things. Well, if that's the message, you better well be living up to it. And those are the things that you can use, again, that social listening and social intelligence to understand that, and that was one of the dealerships we work with. They're talking about how great their service department is, and there was not a positive, word said about them. And the thing is that there are very specific things that people will say. I couldn't get somebody to respond when I had a call to give me an estimated time, or I was told my appointment was at 10 and I didn't see anybody till 11 o'clock.
Right.
Well, again, now if you're telling that's your big value thing, that your service
quick appointments.
Great. Yeah. So it's, you got to understand that. And that's where all this information comes from. Now you got to be able to have somebody that can look at it and understand it, analyze it, and then take action. So it can't be a situation where, kind of the lowest guy on the totem pole gets, okay, you're the new guy, go follow up on the social listening stuff.
Can it be helpful for dealers maybe to identify a problem that's out there that they're not aware of? Being, maybe somebody's not complaining about something regularly on Facebook or through Messenger or through email, but, by listening socially to what's out there, not just on your Facebook page, can dealers help identify like, oh, this is something creeping up on us, we should keep an eye on? Completely.
And that's why I say with the tools and things we have, we can scrape information in places that people are talking that, it was interesting as we dig into some of this data. You're like, I didn't even know that forum or that this site or even existed, so people will find a way to complain. And it may not, like I said, they may rather talk about it behind your back so that they don't have to maybe necessarily deal with a confrontational, because that's one of the things too I've seen in my time. It's, a company gets upset that somebody's had a bad review. Well, then they get confrontational, and then it all goes crazy. So you're really better off.
Is social listening something that dealerships of all sizes should be concerned with? I'm assuming smaller dealerships, less people talking, less sample size, right? But is it still important whether you're, urban or rural or, whatever size dealership you are?
Well, I think it's important because, again, you're wanting to understand what people are saying about you. Now, again, in rural areas, there may not be as much, and that you're not going to get the same amount of, in the middle of Wyoming that you're going to have, like say here in Dallas, Fort Worth. But you still have to, and again, with those things, then you look at what the cost is, because it's obviously going to cost you less to do those things. So it's a, what's your return on investment to at least do what you need to do to get that information. And
listen, I love. Sorry, go ahead, Troy. Please finish your thought.
Well, I was just saying that and because of the fact that you can geo-target all of this stuff, it's not like you're pulling information from all over. You're very, it's not like, okay, I'm going out and going, okay, what is everybody saying about me across the entire United States? Well, I know that, there's only a certain geographic range that, 10, 15, 20 mile radius that people are going to be coming to your dealership anyway. So that's what you've got to do. But it also, as a dealership, you can also collect social intelligence on your competitors, which is a big thing too. Understand, understanding what they're doing, what's working well for them, and going, okay, why is, my competitor down the street have so much more positive sentiment and have so much more activity and engagement and all of those things? What are they doing that we're not?
Yeah, I think that's very pertinent that you bring that up. And there's just a couple things I want to touch back on. So you had talked about the return on ad spend, essentially, or return on investment, right?
Sure.
So you obviously are going to be spending as a dealer money on some social listening tools. And, maybe there's some ways that you can jerry rig things together and say, oh, I have someone that watches X, Y, and Z. Sounds like that's probably not going to be the most successful strategy. But what I do want to touch upon, which is it was great that I let you finish your thought. So thank you for doing that. Absolutely. But essentially the return on ad or spend, the return on investment, the sentiment that it's hyper local, right? So like with this 10 to 15 mile radius, or you could geo target it. The example, or I guess the connection I wanted to make, is that social listening is almost like another advertising outlet. But in reality, I mean, when you have that capability to get that granular in terms of targeting, you could actually see, what your return on investment is based upon changes or the opportunities for improvement that you see within your dealership. It's almost like dealers should just handle this as a main portion or a big component of their advertising to help their dealership, come up with these branding messages, or to better efficiently come up with advertising messages, or better enhance the employee as well as customer experience. I mean, it sounds like it needs to be a foundation, like a cornerstone.
Well, it really is. And that's one of the challenges that we see a lot. And it isn't just, part of with the automotive industry. It is across all industries. People want to jump in and do things tactically. They want, okay, let's get our ads up. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's like, let's create activity. We're doing something here. If you don't have a clear understanding of who your customer is, and being able to, again, establish that unique value proposition of why do I care? Why should I come to you? As they say, everybody listens to that radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
I like that. I'm going to steal that. Hold on.
That's the first time I heard that. No, for real. That's great. We write down things from every episode. I'm going to come up with a wall. That was really good. I like that.
So as I say, that's the WIIFM. That's the station we all listen to. So, but it's really core, because again, if your message isn't resonating with your customer, you can spend, $1 million a month on your advertising budget, and if it's not returning, why not be more selective and go, okay, we know who our target customer is and how we're going to reach them. We know geographically, we know psychographically, demographically, we know where. And that's one of the things too with social listening is you start to understand where people in your core target audience, where are they getting their information? So that now you've got all this data that helps you now go, okay, well, do I really need to spend what I need to, in a radio or television spot? And that's one of the things I've always challenged dealerships with is, well, how far are you pulling your customers from? If it's only 20, 30 miles, why are you, and I'll use, again, Dallas-Fort Worth here as an example. Right. The radio stations and television stations reach, 60 miles one way, maybe 80 miles one way, and another 80. So you've got an 80-mile radius. Why are you spending money on people who are never going to come to you?
Right.
So now all of a sudden you can take that budget, narrow it down, get a higher return on your ad spend less and get more. I mean, that's the whole trick. That's the whole trick. So it's really understanding all of those things, and not just, it's message. It's, what are the channels you need to be on and all of that kind of thing. And if you don't have data, you're just guessing. Mm-hmm. It's like I can sit and make my, I think it's like this, but then I go and look at the data and it says, well, no, you're completely wrong. And what happens too is a lot of times with dealerships, and this is just human nature too, you're going to advertise on the places that you like. Well, I don't like that station. Well, are you your customer?
So we like to do this on Experimarketing. Obviously, one of the things is discussing the topic. And then we like to say, okay, dealers, here is how you can apply this at your dealership. So, one, I think people should reach out to you guys. I'm sold. Hey. I'm a believer after this. And for the listeners out there, there's no sponsorship or anything like that. But this is, I truly believe, as an Experimarketer, that this is something, and I was talking to Matt before we came on here, that this is even something that us at our dealerships, we do not currently do. It is a tremendous opportunity for improvement. And for me, I would say this is something that a dealer does need moving forward. It should be a cornerstone as part of how a dealer devises its advertising strategy, devises its messaging in terms of branding, devises its way to enhance customer experience and employee experience. So I'm a believer, but how can people apply, this? Is it something, yes, should they reach out to you? But even before that, is there ways that you can get information, just by looking at some specific channels? You see what I'm saying? So
again, it's a matter of having somebody that has a business understanding.
So who is that? Who's that person?
It should be, in my mind. Obviously you're not going to be able to get a dealer principal or CEO or necessarily a general manager, but if you've got somebody that you have as your, top marketing executive director, whatever level they are, they should be able to understand and look and start gathering that data. And there are ways to do that, like you said, with just looking at your Facebooks and Twitters and some basic things to at least get a start and understanding and gather that data, review it, and then obviously get with the decision makers on how we should best take that message and run with it. But again, it's a challenge because to gather all of that data is not easy. I mean, it's time consuming. So if it really requires somebody to focus on that, really just be down and targeted on that for themselves and not have, because it's, we all know in the marketing field, there's so many things going on that you get spread so thin that what'll happen is if you don't have somebody locked in on that and focused, something will drag them away. And then eventually it's just like anything else. If you don't make it a habit, it will just, eventually get pushed down the chain, and now you're back where you started. And obviously, would love to have anybody working with us, but I would just say, there are companies out there, do some research, but there are companies out there that can help you in doing these things. But, it's a challenging thing because, like I said, just getting that data. I mean, our reports that we have, each month, they're, 30, 40 page reports. Right. So it's not something that you're just like, okay, here's a quick, it's not like a quick, one-page document.
I'm with Colin. I'm sold. I'm going to sign up all my clients tomorrow.
Yeah, listen, that's good. You work with an ad agency. You got a lot of access to a lot of different people. But no, so this, it's all good and well. But hey, I like to say this. It could all be rosy colored and whatever. But we had discussed originally that with the good, there may be some bad. And so we want to talk about everything on the show. And one of the things was that there could be some potential risks that dealers might run into. And it was just about losing the personal touch.
Well, I think on that, the real issue is you obviously still want to have that communication with your customer base. I mean, that's something that, social listening really should be what's going on with the people that are maybe prospects, people that are out there talking. And again, there are things you can do with Facebook and Twitter and all of those, just as a dealership going, oh crap, we've got people talking about what can we do? Well, that's when you don't necessarily respond on Twitter or Facebook, because you've got the data of who that customer is. Pick up the phone and call them.
Right.
These are all great tools, but ultimately, as you're still buying from people you like and trust. Mm-hmm. So this is all data to help you get people to understand what's going on, but you have to be, whether you're the sales, and seeing how things have to work up from the sales floor up to the sales director, if it has to be, moved up to the dealer principal. But you've got to create that human interaction. Even online, there still has to be a way to engage with somebody on a human level. And I'll just say this, that I'll probably have a lot of people shoot me, dealership.
I already forgave you. I know where you're going next. I already forgive you. It's okay.
But the last, I bought a truck through Carvana.
Oh, heart attack.
And I'm telling you, was the experience from finding what I wanted to, you just select it, go through. I mean, and it was where you could get all of your financing taken care of, all of the F&I that you wanted to, all of the extra things, the service contracts and all of that. So, and this is something coming from a company. I mean, we lifetime warranties is what we provide to dealerships is the binary automotive solution side. So you can do all that right there. So you've got to be able to understand there may be some folks. And the thing is, I'm definitely not, I'm creeping up on halfway through my life, and I still like that personal touch. But again, I look at Carvana, where once I completed everything online, I had a phone call within 15 minutes. Young lady calls me up, walks me through everything, make sure, are you, making sure that everything was, taken care of, that I didn't make a mistake somewhere. You want this correct and all of that. And this was a 30-minute process.
Right.
Again, not 4 hours sitting in a dealership. And that's something I think dealers have to recognize. And those are one of the things that we see a lot in the data from social listening is, man, my time is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, and again, it's like, as a dealer, you're wanting to get as much, make as much gross on that front end as possible and all these other things. Well, if you value my time, I'll spend a little more money. Right. I can make more money. I can't make more time.
Right.
So understanding those kind of things, there's a way to have that human interaction, but it requires somebody at a dealership level to really think about how are we going to implement that and how do we develop that culture. And that's why, I talk about the culture of value. That's what we try to really train the dealerships that are our clients at Binary Automotive Solutions, is how to develop that culture, how to develop a culture of value so that you're thinking about your customer's time.
Right. So let me ask you this. This is a fun one. So we see, Matt and I are very active on LinkedIn. Matt recently was inducted into the Clubhouse app. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And,
I'm waiting on that one.
So Matt's got his Clubhouse invite. I have mine. I just, I don't know. I'm not sold on it. But one of the things that has come out of Clubhouse, and Matt was telling me this. So Matt, I don't know, not to lead the witness, but obviously, Matt, you heard a lot of things about the new Vroom commercial that's coming out on the Super Bowl. And so I guess a lot of the sentiment from Vroom, Matt, you want to hear kind of what the Clubhouse conversation was? And then Troy, I want you to respond, and I want you to say whether or not you think what they're doing is an opportunity for dealers to rise to the occasion, perhaps use social listening, make their processes better, or if you think Vroom is completely out of line and that they're attacking the dealer community and blah, 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 which is a lot of what I think we heard in Clubhouse.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the conversation was all about Vroom is coming after us and we got to push back, right? And first of all, I don't think the commercial's even aired yet. It's on the Super Bowl. That's 2 weeks away.
But they do that pre-release.
Still, the masses haven't seen it yet, in my opinion. I think we've all seen it because we're in the industry. But the whole discussion centered around pushing back against Vroom, and different ideas and ways to go about it. But I think the gist of it was we need to wake up kind of thing as an industry. But there's a lot of outrage about the commercial, which, by the way, if I worked for the creative agency that came up with that idea, I'd be patting myself on the back. I thought it was kind of a clever idea. Those kind of ideas come to me in the shower, and if I had that idea, I would have been calling my boss right away. But what do dealers do? Do we react? Do we do nothing? How do we tell what people want out there? Was that what you asked me to say, Colin? Because I
just wanted the story. No, that was it. I think the story was, one, I just think that it's crazy how up in arms. It's good. Yeah. It shows passion. I will say that. I get very passionate about obviously what I do. You can tell I'm passionate about the podcast, but I think people are reacting to this as if, oh my God, someone in their family just got shot on the street and, they're bleeding out. I think personally that it's an opportunity for dealers to just say, okay, we can be better. We can be like a Vroom, if not. So Troy, I see you shaking your head, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, getting outraged doesn't, that's not going to help anything anyway, unless, because sometimes when you get outraged, it's generally because you're like, well, crap, that's really true.
Right.
So
Right.
The easy way to go about it, instead of saying to yourself, yeah, you're right, you get mad. So I think what dealerships have to do is go, well, how much truth is there in what they're saying?
Right.
And take a look in the mirror and go, well, okay, if this is the case, and the more they fight back against it, the more visibility it gives it.
All right.
I mean, obviously the spot's an exaggeration. Nobody's jumping, but
sometimes you have to kind of share the absurdity to get your point across. And
but there are dealers out there who are doing things that maybe aren't exactly the most savory, honest things to do in the world, and those get exaggerated to jumper cables being stuck to your nipples when you're trying to buy a car. All right, that's an exaggeration, but there's some dealers doing things that warrant that perception of us, and those people need to take a look in the mirror.
Completely. And that's why I say if you see something like that, instead of whining and crying about it, is you step up and go, okay, well, what do I do now to be better? That's how they should look at this, is a way to, okay, how do we better ourselves so that we don't. I mean, because again, you start hearing people talk about, well, eventually there won't be any need for a dealership. Well, I mean, still, even though there are other rooms in the Carvanas, you still have a place now where you go, okay, well, when I buy that car, I still have to have it serviced, right?
Right.
Okay. And you think about all of the Quick Lubes and the Jiffy Lubes and all of those places that are out there. Well, most of those places are taking up the majority of. I had done some research earlier. We had done a webinar, and I can't remember where I got the information from, but showing that it was like, 80% of the service customers are going to the little quick lubes and all of that kind of thing. So it was like 99, I forget, I want to say $99 billion worth of revenue that dealerships were losing out on because of that. And so that's where I say, well, what a great place to utilize, again, your social listening to understand what's going wrong in service, why people aren't coming there.
Right. So I think all of it, honestly, comes back to that social listening, right? So these companies, which are disruptors of the industry, right? The Carvanas, the Vroom, so on and so forth, they've listened to the people, and essentially they disrupted the industry because they've listened to what people are looking for, and they're going to continue pushing the envelope. And I say, amen to what you said before, but I say dealers need to welcome that, and they need to figure out how they can one up that. And it's not bash their services. It's to say, hey, you're right. We haven't been as good as we could be. How do we improve that? So with that stated, go ahead.
I was just saying, well, it's because with that, it almost becomes like, political advertising. Yeah. It's not vote for me because how all the things I can do. It's, don't vote for him because he's horrible.
Right.
And that's the same kind of thing that these dealerships are saying when they do that. And, on the whole, people don't appreciate that, and they're not going to be receptive to that kind of messaging. So I think they use the rooms and the Carvanas as a way to go, how do we get better? What can we do to personalize our interactions with our customers and give them what they want? And because if you do that, you provide that value, people will spend money with you. Concentrate on the value, and your customers will spend money.
Right. So with that, yeah, and it makes plenty of sense. It honestly, it totally does. And it's not rocket science, but so with that, we always like to say for our guests, go ahead.
I would just say one thing. I say it's simple. It's just not easy.
There you go. And it's easier said than done. That's what I like saying, but it's simple, but it's not easy. So with that, Troy, we want you to pull out your marketing crystal ball. This is what we ask all of our, actually, hold on. I'll have to get a prop. It's not necessarily a crystal ball, but it's a little globe. Man, look at.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
All right. So we got our crystal ball here. Oh, marketing gods.
If Troy, I keep going, I'll have the crystal ball right here.
Tell me about it.
For everyone who's not watching, who's listening, Troy is rubbing his head for good luck. There you go. So with that, Troy, what is the future of social listening? What does that look like to you as we look into our marketing crystal ball here?
It's just going to get more and more and be more important because as you read through, articles in Cox Automotive, dealer marketing, digital, all of the automotive, and not just automotive, but since we're, it's talking automotive here, it's personalization. People, customers want a personal attention. And that's how, as a dealership, as a brand, you're going to be able to better address those needs is by understanding and listening. And again, social listening doesn't have to be all digital. It's still, there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and talking and getting data that way too, to incorporate with what you've got going on. So I'm not like, oh, everything has to be digital, it has to all, it's the next newest shiny toy, but you've got to be able to take those things, combine them with, again, online and offline interaction with customers.
Right.
So it's not going away. It's going to get, because of artificial intelligence and the things that are coming, it's just going to get more, where you have more and more data to be able to really understand each individual customer to the point where it's not necessarily customers in groups anymore. We're just going to categorize somebody in a group, but as individuals.
Right. Right. And as we know, it's that's extremely important, not only, as you had mentioned, the move towards personalization and how that's actually just a requirement now. It's not like, hey, maybe I'll personalize this advertising to people. It's, it needs to be personalized if you want it to resonate. But the other thing that you had just brought up is that each individual's customer journey is completely unique. So this is another reason why, like you said, it's just going to become more sophisticated. There's going to be more data available. Each person's going to have their own individual, basically customer profile. And that's how you need to implement social listening to ensure that that specific individual has a unique and great experience that is tailored to what they are looking for. So
absolutely.
I appreciate it, Troy. I guess here, before we send you backstage again, I want to keep you on. I want to say I've been digging in the back of my head here, trying to come full circle with Matt's party example. So bear with me, guys. Here we go.
Oh boy, strap in.
So Matt had interacted with this individual at a party, and he said, you know what, they were saying a story and he was pretending to listen. He wasn't really listening, blah, blah, blah. Is that social listening? So as we've learned from this awesome episode of Experimarketing, that Matt had a lot of opportunity to improve what he was actually doing to truly be social listening. And one of the things I would say is this, Matt, next time you're at this party, should you get invited back? Because if you just did that and you pretended like you weren't listening to anyone, I probably wouldn't invite you back. But should you be invited back to the party, you would listen to whoever you're having a conversation with. You would actively listen, okay?
Yep.
You would watch their body language. And these are like the different cues that we're talking about, right? So being able to pick up the phone and talk to a customer, actually have that personal touch, seeing what's being said on the forums, things like that. So you're going from group to group and you're mingling, but you're actively engaged with each group you're talking to. You're watching body language, all right? There might be a really cute girl over in the corner who likes you. She's been eyeballing you the whole night, but she's afraid to come talk to you. What you're doing though is you're watching her body language and you're saying, okay, she might not come talk to me now. I can either make the move and go talk to her, or maybe I'll see her at another party and then we can start doing some business. If you know what I mean. Car sales. But see, if you see these loose, if you see the loose examples here, I mean, Troy, is that? Am I getting better? Is that kind of right? Like, I think
you're absolutely right, because that's the thing too, is with what we're doing, there's what is the likelihood of you consummating a sale, on the first time you talk with somebody, it's one of those things where you've got to, it's developing a relationship with everybody, your customers, and understanding how do you, the more that you can understand about that person, the better the relationship can be, it's as a one-on-one, and as you said, if the more engaged and actively listening you are and actually caring about what they have to say, that's the big thing is and that's why listening is where you learn.
Right.
So it's a matter of, you don't want to go shooting your mouth off about something until you know, or feel that you're, educated enough on it to actually speak intelligently to it. So that's why I think the social intelligence is so important, because it helps you as a dealership, any brand that you're working, it helps you speak in an engaged way with that relationship with that customer.
Right. So Troy, we really appreciate it. Thanks for all of your knowledge and your input. Actually, I mean, very, very fascinating conversation. As you can see, just continue talking about it.
Oh yeah.
It's really, I think it's definitely, it's something that should be a cornerstone and really every dealership's operation. Just their strategy in general.
And like you said, that's something, if somebody just wants to reach out and talk about it,
so plug yourself.
So, you can reach it, at Binary Auto is the website, so that you can get a hold of me there. You can, there's an 800 number on the website. So binaryauto.com, and just reach out. And again, I'm not about, high pressure selling. I want to help. Again, you see the culture value. If something's not a fit for somebody and it's not going to work, great. If I can guide you somewhere to at least give you a stepping stone to work up to working with us or somebody else, that's what I'm about. It's the more we work together and help each other, we all win in the end. Like I said, it's, you create value and really focus on that value, the money will come. We'll all make money if we just take care of our customers.
I love it. And that's like what we like to do at Experimarketing. If we help each other, help the rest of the community, I think that's fantastic. So Troy, thank you so very much. I'm going to have to go live culture of value a listen. Is that accessible? Spotify, YouTube?
It's on Spotify. I've got to see what all Spotify, Anchor. We actually have Podbean is where I've got it set up for video. So we've got obviously the video and the audio. We had our executive vice president. He and I were on, did the first one in December, just to kind of get things kicked off. And then I've got a list. It's, kind of a back-to-back kind of thing now that I've got some really great guests coming up in the auto industry. Lori Foster, Chris Saraceno, who's with Kelly Auto Group and actually has a book out called The Theory of Five, which I highly, highly recommend reading. Great book. I got it and read it, and I'm like, there's some really great stuff in there to help you understand how to improve yourself professionally and personally. So Those are just a few of them that are coming up.
So we're looking forward to that. I know Matt and I are going to go do our listening, because not only do we like to produce, but we also like to consume and listen, because there's always a brighter, redder, faster Ferrari. And who knows, it could absolutely be your podcast. So Troy Scheer, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much, Troy, for being on. Love to have you on in the future. I mean, absolutely welcome back anytime to the Experimarketing Casa. So thank you, Troy, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, guys. It was a blast. I appreciate it.
All righty. Matt, here we are, man. Another episode. I mean, I hope are the people listening? Are you listening?
I think this was a good episode, because I think it's easy. I mean, they're all good episodes, Colin. Yeah. But it's very easy to be like, I'll set up a Google alert and I'll just keep an eye on Twitter and Facebook and I'm all set. Like, I think it's very easy for dealers to think that. And Troy told us that it's not that easy, and it's not that simple, and it warrants more importance than that.
Right. Absolutely. And
also, worth noting, it's not, I mean to cut you off, but whatever, it's my turn to talk. That this is the first time I've ever said nipple on a podcast. So thank you for that.
We're talking about clamps. We're talking about consummating a deal. I mean, we're going to get an R rating on this episode.
I know.
Explicit. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. First, before we clock out here, I just want to clock out. I'm still going back to work. Who am I kidding? My goodness. Before we end this episode, I want to thank our sponsors, though, please, at Dealer Marketing Magazine. That's dealermarketing.com. This is a go-to source for everything automotive in terms of, I'm talking advertising, sales knowledge, fixed ops, all parts of the operation of the dealership. You can learn something from the expert panel, which has been curated. I mean, a lot of incredible people. Actually, Lori Foster, who Troy had mentioned on the expert panel. Well, Matt's pointing to himself. Matt pretends to be an expert, and he's also on the panel.
Thank you.
I don't know how that happened, because I'm not on the panel.
Don't know either.
Yeah.
All right, Colin, anyway, what it is.
Yeah, I see. It must have been Experimarketing powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. So they thought you were the actual headline, and you're not. So with that, thank you to Dealer Marketing Magazine, dealermarketing.com. Let's play us out. It's all good.
Wait, don't you want to plug Jim McCarthy?
Oh, Jim McCarthy voiceovers. I'll do that too. He did my kick-ass intro. All right. The one that makes you want to run through walls. Now you can play us out. All righty.